Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome along to yet another beautiful day walking along the Suffolk coast. I'm out here at the beach on the coast, and if you look off into the distance there, you might just make out all the wind farms that are out there generating electricity. Well, not today because there's no wind, but good investment, wonderful investment. Welcome along, welcome along. This is what I do. If it's your first time here, welcome along. This is what I do. I walk along in beautiful locations such as this and talk about things that are on my mind, things that are in the public consciousness at the time, and give my thoughts and opinions on them. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So good to have you all here, and I can't thank you enough for joining me yet again for yet another walk along in a beautiful location. So I've been promising this one for a little while, and look, while I'm walking along the beach, obviously this is a stone beach here in the UK. That's how we roll here, stones and sand. So if I pull a Joe Biden and fall over, please forgive me. I'm sure I'll bounce back up. So I've been promising to do this video for a little while, and I'm entitling it The John Phenomenon. Now I'll get into why it's called The John Phenomenon a bit later on. But I don't want to focus on that. That's sort of a more sort of comic part of the story about something that is quite serious, and something that's radically changed not only my worldview, but I'm sure most people's worldview when it happened. And that is 9/11, or September the 11th, 2001. I'm sure you'll remember where you were that day. I know where I was that day. I was traveling in America with my now wife, but back then it was my girlfriend. And as I've said before, I'm a writer, not published or anything like that, but I love writing. And I was in the US, I was in LA specifically, to meet a producer for a movie that I wrote. And we landed on September the 10th, 2001, and I was due to meet them the next couple of days. And we woke up in the morning of September 11th. We were staying at like a B&B or a hostel kind of thing on Venice Beach when we were staying there, and a beautiful place. Hello to anyone who's in LA. I mean, LA is a bit of a shithole. I think you know, it's a weird place. Wonderful people, weird place. So we woke up in the morning of September 11th. People were crying in the corridors, and we walked out of our room. And what's going on? Walked downstairs, and in the TV room there's like 40 people sitting there watching the television. We walked in, had a look at the television. I said, "What movie is this?" And they said, "No, this is happening right now in New York." And we sat down and we watched it. We watched it live. We watched it all unfold live in the US. Odd that we were there. Very, very, very odd. Needless to say, I didn't get my meeting with the film producer. You know, as luck would have it. Probably best, actually. You know, with the way I've lived my life up until now, you know, I don't know where I'd be if I was in movies. Probably friends with Charlie Sheen, and that wouldn't work out well. You know what we know about Charlie Sheen now. So yeah, so we woke up and we were in LA for September 11th, and we were watching it live. Now watching it live in the country where it was happening definitely left an impact on me. And what we found was, you know, walking down the street, we were being asked for ID, to show our passports, and you know, that kind of thing, because there was heightened tensions in the country at the time. But you know, that day, you know, the narrative that was being built, who was responsible, and how it all came to be, it was very, very odd, very, very odd. And here I am, 2021, 20 years later, and I'm still talking about it. And it's not just me; it's multiple people around the world that question this narrative because it doesn't make any sense. None of it does. And we're going to go through some of that today. And like I say, I don't know what happened. There are very, very curious things that happened. And I'm going to pose a few questions and maybe throw some stuff into the conversation that you haven't heard about before. And let's see where we go. So, as I would say, you know, if you're watching my channel and you sort of know what a conspiracy bent I'm usually on, and you know, I don't view conspiracy as being a conspiracy theory anyway. Conspiracy theory as it's labelled. If you don't know what to think about that label, maybe go back and watch my the Streisand Effect video, and you get a pretty good idea about who I am and what I think about the words conspiracy theorist. You know, I wear that badge proudly. You know, conspiracy theorist. I mean, who wants to believe that everything's hunky-dory and we just believe everything the mainstream media's and the government tell us? I don't want to. So, but before we go on, hold on. I mean, look where we are. Sun's peeking up over the horizon. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful area there I live. And, you know, that's why I bring you to these kind of locations, because it's just absolutely lovely. Hearing the sea lapping on the shore, you know, it's soothing. It's soothing, and then you have to listen to my voice. So, yeah, there's a few things that don't make any sense, and I want to point those out for those who don't know, and sort of maybe get a few questions rattling around in your head, and then we'll get to the John phenomenon at the end of this, because it's brilliant. It's hilarious, by the way. So, there were 3 buildings that fell down that day. 3, okay? Now, we're told that planes hit the buildings. Okay, let's just assume that that's true. I don't believe that it is, but we're not going to touch on that today. There's just... We'll touch on it, but not in the way that you think. As in, now, we were told that planes hit buildings in New York, and we know who the hijackers were, especially one of them, because they found his passport in the street. So, plane hits a building, bursts into flames, nothing left, no bits of plane, no nothing, but a paper passport managed to make it out of that fireball and land on the street to conveniently be found, and that's how they knew who one of the terrorists was that hijacked the planes. Okay. But let's go back to the planes for a minute. Okay, so the planes hit the buildings, 2 buildings, as we're told, you know. But the problem was that on that day, 3 buildings fell down. And the 3rd one was called World Trade Center 7. Okay, and then whenever I have a discussion with this about people, and they say, "Oh, how can you not believe what we're told? You know, it's obvious what happened." 3 buildings fell down. One was called World Trade Center 7, and that fell down like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Now, didn't get hit by a plane. Had a few small fires in the building. In fact, the fire brigade was getting the fires under control. You can go and have a look. There's plenty of video. And then about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or before that actually, BBC was doing a live feed from Ground Zero. BBC, the most trusted name in news, remember them? Okay. So they were doing a live feed from Ground Zero with World Trade Center 7 in the background of the shot. Okay, so there she was doing a live feed to camera. BBC reporter here in New York doing a live feed from downtown New York where World Trade Center 7 has fallen, and the building's still in the background. Needless to say, not long after that, the building did fall at free fall speed, just like a controlled demolition. Fell in on itself. Boom, 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 boom. Go and have a look at the video. You know, as I say to everybody, don't believe a word that I say. Go and look for it. Go and look at it for yourself. You know, it's odd that a steel frame building, you know, there's only 3 steel frame buildings, three in history of the world that have all ever fallen down due to fire, and they all happen on the same day. This story is ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, so that's the first really queer thing. You know, really, really odd. World Trade Center 7. Like I say, don't believe me. Go and look at the videos for yourself. And the BBC one's just damning. I mean, it is ridiculous. There she is doing a report in front of the building that had apparently fallen down, but it was still in the background. Brilliant. Now, the Pentagon. The Pentagon. Okay, so we're told that a plane hit the Pentagon. Now, I don't know about you, but, you know, I've seen, you know, on the news, obviously, not in person. Thankfully, I never have to see one in person because I do like travelling on planes. Well, not that I can at the moment. I mean, the fact that it's illegal to get a haircut, illegal to get a haircut. I mean, amazing. Illegal to get a haircut. I can't get on a plane at the moment, so I don't remember what it's like. But I'm hoping to get back on one day. I won't be taking a vaccine passport with me. I can guarantee you that. So, well, I'll take a tangent off there for a moment. Now, who is exempt from this kind of shit that we're hearing? You know, you have to have vaccines and, you know, you have to have vaccine passport. Who's exempt from that? Politicians, ambassadors, and wealthy business people. Oh, but all the politicians are lining up and they're getting their shot live on TV, of course. Of course they are. Because we can all believe what politicians say. Oh, but Arnold Schwarzenegger did it too. I've had my shot, come with me if you want to live. Fuck off, Arnie. But, you know, look, it's up to you what you do with your vaccine, and, you know, if you want it, go and have it. You know, it's your body, your choice. Yeah, one day I hope to get back on a plane. But let's go back to the Pentagon. Okay, so I've seen some plane crashes on the TV. Yeah, I've seen some plane crash tests that they've done where, you know, they test out planes and how they react when they crash. You know, that's part of FAA safety testing, of course. So, you know, plane crash. I've never seen a plane crash where the plane is vaporized, ever, where there's nothing left. Usually there's some chairs, or usually the tail section's always intact. I mean, almost always the tail is intact. You know, some chairs or something that resembles wreckage. You know, maybe a bit of the plane wing or the fuselage, something. You know, you've got, you know, all this baggage is on board. You know, baggage is normally somewhere, there's some clothes or some shoes or something. At the Pentagon, there was nothing. Nothing that resembled a plane, absolutely nothing. How's that possible? Oh, but there's an engine there. Okay, there's an engine that people who are jet engineers have said doesn't belong to a 747 or any type of commercial airline plane that exists. It's more like a rocket engine or a missile engine. That's interesting. Not the two 9-ton titanium engines that would normally be attached to an aircraft of that size. No, they're not there. What temperatures does titanium melt at, by the way? I don't know. Anyway, that's off the point. So nothing at the Pentagon. You know, this is the Pentagon in the US, okay? You know, one of the most heavily protected buildings in the world, okay? You know, you got 5 rings of concrete, steel and reinforced concrete to protect the military arm of the world. You know, this is, you know, the Pentagon. Cameras everywhere. Have you seen a single bit of camera footage of that plane coming in? Oh, there's actually, I think, 2 or 3 frames of a fireball and an explosion from the parking lot camera. No other footage from anywhere else do you see that plane coming into the Pentagon. 0. Why is that? Don't you think that's a bit odd? I think it's a bit odd. And what part of the Pentagon did it hit? So, what you might not know was, I think the day before or the week before, it was just before, the Pentagon announced that it couldn't find like $3 trillion worth of money from its budget. Just disappeared, you know. Yeah, the Fugazi fiat currency, of course, that money. they just disappeared. Like the money, we can't explain where this money's gone, you know. And the office that was doing that audit of where the money went, that just happened to be the very same place in the Pentagon that got hit by the plane. The plane, boss, the plane. For those of you Fantasy Island fans, because that's what we're living in, Fantasy Island. The plane, boss, the plane. You know, tattoos out there telling everyone, it's a plane. There wasn't any plane. Now, if somebody can show me some footage, then I'm happy to look at it. But I'll guarantee you won't find it, because it doesn't exist. Now, what else is there? World Trade Center 7 and the Pentagon. I mean, those two alone are pretty damning. You know, the 9/11 Commission report, you know, all, you know, something 1,500 pages of it or something. Not once did they mention World Trade Center 7 and why it came down. Don't you think that's odd? I think it's odd. Really weird. Now, there was the FAA in the US grounded all flights that day. Every single flight going into and out of the country. You know, to safeguard people, because they didn't know if more planes were being hijacked, of course. So they grounded all the planes, except for one. Who flew on that plane out of America on the day where they grounded every single flight into and out of America, and inside America as well? All domestic, all international flights were cancelled or rerouted somewhere else. What plane, only one plane, was allowed to fly out of the country that day? Who was on that? Was it Bin Laden's family? That's strange. Oh, but don't believe me. I'm crazy, remember? That crazy conspiracy theorist. Yeah, odd. Very, very odd. That, Bin Laden's family were the only ones allowed to fly that day. So, make of that what you will. And Bin Laden, that's it. He's interesting. He's interesting. So, Bin Laden was working with who? Was working with, the CIA, you say. That's interesting. The CIA, Bin Laden working with the CIA. Now, why would he be working with the CIA? He was working with the CIA he was being armed, funded and trained by the CIA to help fight with Mujahideen in Afghanistan, to fight against the Russians, to get the Russians out of Afghanistan. Now, why do they want the Russians out of Afghanistan? What's important about Afghanistan? Now, we've spoken about the Middle East before. Everybody thinks it's the oil. It's the oil. They all want the oil, and it's about the oil. Really? What's the Middle East got? History. Why would they want to interrupt history? I really don't know. Okay, let's move on. What's Afghanistan got? Oil and gas? What else? Heroin. What? The biggest poppy fields in the world, you say? Controlled by military, you say? That's interesting. America's got a drug problem, you say? Even more interesting. Why were British troops guarding the poppy fields in Afghanistan? Who was running that heroin? Where were they running it to? Who was in control of it? I don't know. Do you? Okay, so Afghanistan. Another interesting thing about Afghanistan was, in the months leading up to knowing who bombed the US, with some planes apparently, there was many, many stories. Go back and look for yourself. New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Have a look for yourself. Don't believe me, I can't read, remember? I'm too stupid to be able to read. There was many, many stories leading up to September the 11th that said the Taliban, who America put in power, by the way, the Taliban wouldn't allow oil and gas pipeline to come through the country. So then America, conveniently, some planes hit some buildings apparently, okay, controlled by a guy in Afghanistan, and George Bush proudly announced on the day, without investigation. I'm so blown away by their investigation skills. I mean, really, amazing. I'm constantly blown away by the FBI's and the CIA's investigation skills, because they know shit, obviously. And the NSA, no such agency, and the Patriot Act, and all the wonderful things that came out of 9/11. They managed to put together an intel report that showed that Osama bin Laden, or if he came from Ibiza, Osama bin Laden in it, Osama bin Laden was in Afghanistan, and he was the person responsible running the whole operation from a cave. From a cave. Now, what's significant about the caves in Afghanistan? That's interesting. Where do the caves go? What other stories have come out of those caves? I'm not going to tell you. Go and look for yourself. Oh, but you're a conspiracy theorist, Chris. You're just crazy. Yes, I am. All right, so we've got Osama bin Laden, working for the CIA. His family gets flown out. The only plane that flies on September the 11th is Osama bin Laden's family out of the US. Where do they fly to? Yes. Who funded the whole thing? Who was responsible? Well, I suppose we'll have to wait and see about that, won't we? Oh, but it's dead, Chris. We know who did it. Let's talk about the terrorists for a moment. These 19 terrorists that were on the FBI watch list. When a good proportion of them, people that still existed, that were on this terrorist watch list, who showed up at their own embassy with their passport and said, That wasn't me, I wasn't there. Had nothing to do with it. That doesn't matter. Oh, well, you know. History, that's a funny thing, you know. History is a funny thing that gets written by who? The people who make it up are the winners, right? The people who take the power, they're the ones who write the history. So, yeah, very, 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 very odd things that happened that day. Obviously, watching it live, we had the news reports of, we saw the firefighters bravely coming out and bringing people out, to, you know, smoke and dust and, you know, atrocities. I mean, horrible, horrible stuff that happened that day. And, you know, the firefighters are pushing people back and the police are pushing people back and saying there's bombs going off in the building. There's bombs, you know, people are coming out burned and, you know, bombs going off in the building. Bombs going off in the building? I thought a plane hit it. Very strange. Very, very strange. But, you know, you can't question the narrative because if you do, oh, you're crazy. But then there's some people, you know, going back to the planes, of course, there's some people who know a lot more about this than I do, called Pilots for 9/11 Truth. And there's another group as well called Engineers for 9/11 Truth, okay? So Pilots for 9/11 Truth. They took some of the best pilots in the world, you know, 30,000, 50,000 flying hours. These are people know their shit. They can fly planes better than anybody, okay? They put them in simulators and tried to get them to perform the same maneuver and try and get them to hit the buildings the same way that these terrorists did, that we're told were trained in Cessnas, and one of them couldn't even fly the Cessna or land or take off properly. But he was managed to maneuver a 747, fly in a impossible, you know, dive that would have ripped the wings off the plane. You know, impossible angles, and actually hit a building going the speed that he did, you know, 600 miles an hour, with such accuracy that these trained pilots with, you know, thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours in the cockpit couldn't recreate. Engineers for 9/11 Truth have gone through all the evidence. They've tried to remodel how the building could pancake down on itself, how it could boom, 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 same way it did, free fall speed, with no interruption of the how it fell. Oh, but the pillars melted because of the jet fuel. The pillars melted because of the jet fuel. That's what we're told. So, you know, that initial explosion that we saw, that wasn't the jet fuel exploding. You need to understand that. That wasn't the jet fuel exploding. That was something else. And there was so much jet fuel left that it was able to melt all the pillars. Okay. Okay. You know, I don't want to make light of this because it is. I mean, it was serious when I was there. It was, you know, people were killed. You know, it was shocking. Still is shocking. But you know, I'm laughing at the ridiculousness of this whole narrative that we've been told, and we've been led to believe that this is the truth. It's a lie. It's a con. So, yeah, but you can't question it. You know, if this video gets banned off YouTube, don't worry. I'll put it up on my BitChute channel like I had to with the other one. You know. But, you know, odd set of circumstances. Now, we'll go back to the sort of more comedic part of this whole thing, because this was funny, and it's amazing what your brain stores in those moments where you're confronted with something that's so horrible, as we were that day. We were there live, and we're watching it in America at the time when it happened, obviously, and you know, when you're confronted with a situation so dark and so horrible, the things that your brain notices and stores, it really surprises me. It's really odd. Now we're sitting there, my wife and I, and you know, we're watching this thing, and you know, people on the ground. You had these reporters on the ground. They were like, "Here we are live, Ground Zero. Ground Zero. We're talking to survivors. We're talking to police officers. We're talking to FBI. We're talking to all these people about their experience. You know, as they're passing. You know, okay, we've got John Michaels here from the New York Fire Department. John, what can you tell us?" "Oh, thank you very much. You know, tragedy here. We've got thousands of people need help. Blah 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 blah." You know, told his story. "Thank you very much." Back to Wolf Blitzer in the newsroom. He was like, "Yeah, tragedy in New York, Ground Zero. We're going to swap back. We're going to cross back to our people on the ground. Okay, what can you tell us?" "Okay, we've got John Fitzpatrick here from the FBI. John, what can you tell us?" "Thank you." Blah blah blah. You know. Then we got a survivor here John Peters here from, and it was like person after person after person they were interviewing. It was called John. And I was like, I turned to my wife and I was like, you hearing this? She's like, yeah, everyone's called John. It was odd, to say the very least. And it was so noticeable. It was so noticeable that, I pointed it out, So, and it went on for a while, and then we couldn't stand it any longer, so we got out and we went walking, we get out of the building and just tried to go and shake it off and get out into the world again. But it really stuck with me, how many people were called John. I got back to London afterwards when we could finally get on a plane, where I was living at the time, and I get back there and I see my two flatmates, and I'm like, I told them the story about what happened, and here we were there, and they're both of those guys, Nicholas, their names are both my flatmates. Nick, if you're watching, hi, Nick and Nick, and they said, dude, you're not going to believe this. And they both pulled out their driver's license, and they showed me their driver's license, and both of their names, I never knew, I just knew them as Nick and Nick. Both of their middle names were John, Nicholas John and Nicholas John. I couldn't believe it. Then I watched a movie that day, Terminator 2, I think it was. The movie hasn't even started, it's a black screen. Oh, that's going to make me racist. The screen was dark. The screen was still dark. There was no light present on the screen. And there was a voiceover that said, my name is John Connor. It's just... Then I spoke to my sister not long after. She said, I've got a new boyfriend, his name's John. And I was like, you're joking. And just kept on going on, John. Now, the 17th letter of the alphabet, this struck me the other day, though. It sort of tied it together, it made me laugh. The 17th letter of the alphabet, if you don't know what letter that is, count it up, A, B, C, D. I'm sure you can do the alphabet. Worst case scenario, Google it. I'm sure you can Google the 17th letter of the alphabet. 17th letter of the alphabet, a lot of posts are saying, you're watching a movie. What we're saying isn't real. We're watching a movie. I even did a story about it. I did a video about it not long ago called The Allegory of the Cave, Plato's Allegory of the Cave, and how that relates to what we're watching right now. And the 17th letter of the alphabet has said, many posts, you're watching a movie. And I thought it struck me the other day, and I was thinking, what's the most popular name in movies for a male character? Is it just a John? And I mean, it's such a popular name. The Americans even call their toilet John. I'm going to the John. It's odd that your brain stores this kind of, well, my brain anyway, it stores this kind of shite. It's just absolute nonsense it stores. Things I have to remember, forget about it. The sun will come out. Look at that. Woo! It's getting better and better by the minute. Looks like the storm's passing. So, there are many things that don't make any sense in this world. This is the whole point of this video. There's many things that don't make any sense. And if you can't make sense of it, don't just say, oh, well, I accept the current knowledge and the current understanding or the current narrative that's being fed to me. You should question it. And you should question it without fear of ridicule and humiliation or name calling. You're a bad person for questioning what the narrative says. Why would you even question the government? Why would you question the media? Don't feel bad if you're questioning these things, because if it doesn't make sense, as Charlie Ward has said, think what you want of Charlie Ward, but what he said many times, if it looks like shit and it smells like shit, it's probably shit. And if you can't recognize that there are things that are really odd and you can't put your finger on it, you might not be able to explain it. It's probably that way because it's supposed to stand out to you. There are things, there's markers and there's things that stand out, and it's just, you have to question the narrative. And that's the whole point of this whole talk. It's question the narrative. Don't just blindly believe what you're told by me, by government, by media, no one. Especially not by the intelligence agencies. The intelligence agencies. But that's it, basically. Look, I brought you out here because the world is a wonderful place. And so are the people in it. And we can't be separating ourselves from each other purely on belief systems and especially on made up stuff. So get out there and connect with people, really connect with people, you know. I had someone, a wonderful subscriber, get in touch with me personally. Sounds like a wonderful lady. I'm going to have to call her up and say hello, but, you know, stay in touch. Leave a comment on the thing here if you like what I'm doing here. Share the video. If not, just leave a comment and say I don't like it. Cool, I don't mind either way. But the most important thing, get out there, get in touch with people, give them some love, look after yourself, look after other people, and I shall look forward to catching up with you real soon. Take care. Bye.